Evening had fallen. The last golden rays of the sun stretched across the city streets. A gentle spring breeze moved softly through the air, while people hurried along their own paths. But Gita's heart was overflowing with a strange happiness. She walked quickly after leaving school. Sometimes she glanced at her watch. Sometimes she smiled quietly, and sometimes she hurried her steps even more. Under her breath, she whispered softly, "Today, I'll finally see Arin again." 1 year, a whole year had passed. Her heart felt as if it would burst from her chest. That morning, when Arin had called her on the phone, her entire world had changed. "Come to the park this evening. I need to tell you something important." Just one sentence. Yet for Gita, it was the sweetest sentence she had ever heard. She had left in such a hurry that she had forgotten her phone at home. Now she regretted it deeply. "I wish I had brought my phone. I would have talked to him the whole way." Suddenly, she stopped. She turned around and stood near the roadside, raising her hand as if to stop a car. But then she smiled to herself. "No, why should I rush? Let him wait a little. I've waited long enough for him already." And so, she continued walking slowly. But beneath her happiness, somewhere deep inside her heart, an unfamiliar anxiety quietly lingered. She thought to herself, "Arin's family doesn't even live here. Then why has he come here?" But she quickly pushed the thought away. Maybe he came with his family. She took a deep breath. Then another thought crossed her mind. What if I'm late today? I can never refuse him. And with that thought, an old memory returned to her. That night, the night she had secretly invited Arin to her home. They had whispered to each other all night long, speaking in hushed voices, careful not to wake her sister-in-law. That night, Arin had told her, "One day will come when nobody will stand between us, and we'll talk freely, without fear." The memory brought a soft smile to Gita's lips. Lost in those thoughts, she finally arrived at the meeting place. She looked at her watch. She was exactly on time. Her eyes searched the surroundings. But Arin was nowhere to be seen. Slowly, uneasiness crept into her heart. She looked to the right, then to the left. At that moment, a luxurious black car stopped in front of her. The window slowly rolled down, and a voice came from inside. "Come on, get in." Gita instantly recognized the voice. It was Arin. Her heart filled with joy. She got into the car. She almost threw her arms around him in happiness. But the presence of the driver made her hold herself back. Arin only smiled quietly, and the car slowly began moving through the city streets. But Gita had no idea that this journey would become the most dangerous journey of her life. Night slowly descended. The city lights flickered on, and colorful reflections danced across the car windows. Gita sat beside Arin, her heart still trembling with excitement. Sometimes she secretly looked at him. Sometimes she smiled softly. But Arin seemed strangely different tonight. He wasn't the same Arin she once knew. He wasn't speaking lovingly anymore. He wasn't holding her hand the way he used to. Quietly, Gita asked, "Arin, are you okay?" Without even looking at her, Arin smiled faintly. "Yeah, I'm just a little tired." But his smile felt cold. So cold, as if some dark secret was hidden behind it. The car kept wandering through the city for a long time. Gradually, the night deepened. The streets became emptier, and an unfamiliar fear began growing inside Gita's heart. Softly, she said, "It's getting late. My family will start worrying about me." Arin finally looked at her. Tonight is only for me." There was something strange in his eyes. Gita wanted to say something more, but she stayed silent. A few moments later, the car stopped in front of a large house. The surroundings were completely silent. No children's voices, no sound of women talking, only darkness and silence. Gita felt uneasy. "Whose house is this?" Arin laughed softly. "Our house." Gita looked confused. "But your family doesn't live here." Arin turned off the engine and replied quietly, "Nobody's home tonight." The moment he said those words, Gita's heart trembled slightly. Immediately, she said, "Arin, not tonight. I'll come tomorrow. Please take me home now." But Arin burst into laughter. "Silly girl, why does this place feel strange to you? This is where you truly belong." Then he grabbed her hand. "Come inside. We'll sit for a little while, then I'll take you home." Gita stayed silent for a few seconds. Somewhere deep inside her heart, fear was growing stronger, but love had weakened her judgment. Slowly, she nodded and walked inside with Arin. The house was completely silent. The room doors were shut tightly, and the cold stillness of the hallway made Gita even more uncomfortable. Nervously, she asked, "Where are your mother and sisters?" Arin laughed loudly. "Nobody's here tonight. That's exactly why I invited you." Then he stepped closer. "Do you remember the night you invited me to your house?" Gita smiled shyly. Arin continued, "You spoke so softly that I could barely hear your voice. But tonight," he smiled slowly, "tonight we'll talk freely until morning." A smile spread across Gita's lips once again. She thought, maybe this would become the most beautiful night of their love story. But she didn't know that hidden within the walls of this house was the greatest betrayal of her life. Arin held Gita's hand, and together they entered one of the rooms. The room was dimly lit. Only a weak lamp on the table cast a pale yellow glow across the walls. Slowly, Gita looked around. Her heartbeat had grown faster, yet Arin's presence still made her feel safe. Suddenly, Arin stepped closer. He placed both hands gently on her shoulders, then slowly pulled her into his arms. "See," Arin said with a faint smile, "I told you. Tonight you won't be afraid of anyone." Gita rested her head against his chest. For a moment, she felt as if all her worries had disappeared. But then Arin spoke again. "Do you remember that night?" "Which night?" "The night your sister-in-law woke up because of me." Gita smiled shyly, lowering her eyes. Arin laughed softly. "You were so terrified that you almost fell at her feet." Gita whispered, "Please don't remind me of that." But Arin laughed again. "Tonight there's nobody here for you to beg." Something about his laughter felt strange. A dark kind of laughter. One that made Gita's heart tremble. At that moment, knock, knock, knock. Someone was at the door. Gita immediately became nervous. "Who was that?" Arin answered carelessly. "I'll be back." He walked outside. Gita remained alone in the room. An unfamiliar fear tightened around her heart. From outside, she could hear men talking and laughing. A few moments later, Arin returned. But this time, he wasn't alone. 3 other men entered the room behind him. Gita instantly stood up. Fear and confusion filled her eyes. Who are they?" Arin smiled casually. "My friends." Then he held her hand tightly. "Very close friends, closer than brothers." Gita's chest tightened. She wanted to leave the room, but Arin gripped her wrist firmly. "They wanted to meet you." Forcing a weak smile, Gita greeted them politely, then quickly walked out of the room. But now, her heart no longer felt at peace. Something inside her warned that the atmosphere of this house was changing. A few moments later, Arin entered the kitchen. "My friends want to taste food made by your hands." Gita looked surprised. "Now? It's already so late." "Yeah, they're special guests tonight." Because Arin insisted, Gita began cooking. But in the silent kitchen, fear slowly began filling her heart. Quietly, she whispered to herself, "I don't know why, but something feels terribly wrong." And she had no idea that this fear was only the first sign of the storm waiting ahead. The night grew darker and darker. Outside the house, only the distant barking of dogs could be heard. Inside, the loud laughter of men echoed through the rooms. Gita stood silently in the kitchen. Her hands were busy working, but her mind was somewhere else. Again and again, she glanced toward the guest room. The laughter of Arin's friends felt heavy, strange, disturbing. Quietly, she whispered, "I wish I had gone home." But then she remembered Arin's words. "Tonight is only for me." And she forced herself to stay calm. A little later, the food was ready. Arin came into the kitchen. A strange smile rested on his lips. "Wow, just like before." Gita gave a faint smile, but the fear inside her still refused to disappear. Arin took her hand gently. "Come on, everyone's waiting for you." As they entered the guest room, all eyes turned toward Gita. Immediately, she felt uncomfortable. She greeted them politely, then tried to leave again. But one of the guests smiled and said, "Please stay and eat with us. We'd be happy." Gita wanted to refuse, but Arin quickly interrupted. "Yes, stay? Why would you sit alone?" Because of Arin's insistence, Gita finally sat down with them. Silence spread across the dining cloth. But the eyes of those men, they made her deeply uneasy. She tried to act normal. She ate a few bites, then picked up a glass of water. The moment she drank it, her head suddenly felt heavy. Her vision blurred. Slowly, she turned toward Arin. "Arin, my head." A slow smile spread across Arin's face. Gita tried to stand up, but her legs became weak. The entire room began spinning around her. The sound of laughter echoed farther and farther away. And then, everything went dark. Morning. Weak rays of sunlight slipped through the curtains and entered the room. Slowly, Gita opened her eyes. A sharp pain throbbed through her head. She tried to sit up, but suddenly her heart froze. With trembling eyes, she looked around the room and realized the horrifying truth. Her entire body shook violently. Tears began streaming down her face. Slowly, she turned toward Arin. He sat there calmly, as if nothing had happened. Then, with a cold smile, he said, "Thank you, you protected my honor." Gita stared at him in disbelief. Her broken voice trembled as she whispered, What did you do to me?" Arin laughed carelessly. "Relax. It was just one night." At that moment, Gita's heart shattered into pieces. With tears pouring from her eyes, she cried, "For you, I lied to my family. I betrayed everyone for you." Then in a voice full of pain, she whispered, "But how will I ever forget your betrayal?" The moment she said those words, Arin suddenly stood up and slapped her hard across the face. "Betrayal?" he shouted angrily. "I never betrayed you." His eyes burned with cruelty. "You destroyed yourself." Gita stared at him in shock. Arin continued coldly, "You came after me on your own. Every word felt like a knife stabbing into her heart. And in that moment, Gita finally realized something terrifying. Some kinds of love exist only to destroy people. With trembling hands, Gita wiped away her tears. She could no longer bear to look at Arin's face. The same Arin, who had once been the greatest happiness of her life, had now become the deepest wound she would ever carry. Slowly, she walked out of the room. The hallway felt long, cold, endless. Every step felt unbearably heavy, as if her feet no longer had the strength to move. Behind her, the laughter of Arin's friends still echoed through the house. But now, those laughs sounded like humiliation ringing inside her ears. She opened the front door and stepped outside. The cold morning air touched her face, but it could not extinguish the fire burning inside her heart. She walked aimlessly through the streets, broken, helpless. Tears continued running down her cheeks. The city was slowly waking up. People filled the streets again, each busy with their own lives. But Gita felt as though her entire world had collapsed. Quietly, she whispered to herself, "How can I go home now?" Her mother's face appeared in her mind, her father's trust, her family's love, and then all the lies she had told for Arin. Her heart shattered even more. By evening, exhausted, terrified, and emotionally broken, Gita finally reached home. But the moment she stepped inside, she froze. The house was full of people, relatives, uncles, aunts, family friends. Everyone had gathered there. The entire house was filled with fear and worry. The moment Gita opened the door, her mother rushed toward her. She hugged her tightly, tears already falling from her eyes. "My daughter, where were you?" "We were terrified." Her mother's voice trembled with panic. Gita remained silent. Her eyes slowly moved across the faces around her. Everyone looked worried. Everyone was waiting for an answer. Suddenly, she felt unable to breathe. Her mother asked again, "Tell me, my child, where were you?" With great difficulty, Gita forced the words out. I was at my cousin's house." The moment she said those words, the front door opened again, and her cousin entered the house with his wife. "Peace be upon you." The instant Gita saw them, the color drained from her face. Her eyes widened in terror. Her heartbeat pounded wildly. At that moment, she realized her lies could no longer save her. The room began spinning around her. Her mother's voice, the people talking, everything slowly faded away. And then, Gita collapsed onto the floor. Screams filled the house. Her mother rushed toward her in tears. But deep inside her heart, Gita felt only one truth. Sometimes people are not destroyed by another person's betrayal, but by their own blind trust. And that was her final betrayal, the end.